Every damn day.
Hello, everyone. It's Jerry at the Fledge, and welcome to the episode 53 of season 2 of Every Damn Day. And today we've got our good friend Katie Kuran on the show. How you doing today, Katie?
I'm good.
Let's start with you telling us about you a little bit.
Well, my name's Katie. I'm 29. I have my own little shop in the Reotown Marketplace. I'm a mom to an 11-year-old. And I also do a lot of gig work on the side to fill in like my financial gaps.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much me like day to day.
So you, I read your bio. You were born and raised in Lansing and have been in Lansing your whole life, right?
Yep.
Where'd you go to school? Tell us some stuff about that.
Well, I started school at IHM Catholic School.
Mm-hmm.
Once we couldn't afford that anymore, I went to a few different elementary schools, and then Otto for middle school, Eastern for high school.
All right, a Quaker. I'll give you some skin on that one. I was much older though, so I graduated in '84. You must have graduated in
2010.
10. Okay. So, I want to talk a little bit about being a single mother in Lansing, and having a business in Lansing, because those are two tough things in themselves. 50% of the single mothers in Lansing live below the poverty line. And to live below a poverty line or even be close or live, do you know what the Ellis threshold is?
I don't know what that number is now.
Well, it's, I think for a single mother, it's around, somewhere around $30,000, maybe $29,000, and it stands for access limited, income constrained, and employed. And what it basically means is you live check to check, and almost everybody in Lansing lives check to check. And how was it being from Lansing, being a single? Or I'm sorry, are you a single mother?
Yes, I am.
I didn't clarify.
Yes, I
am. How was it starting your business? Was it tough?
Yes. But I got pregnant pretty young. I was 17, and I actually started college when I was 5 months pregnant at Central Michigan. Once I actually had her, I just realized I can't do like the traditional college life. It just gives me no time to be a mom with a baby. So I moved back here, and I was really thinking about like what I was going to do with my life, because I was in college actually for neuroscience. That's where I was going to be headed. And I was like, I would be just now finishing that degree. And so I was like, what do I want her to take away in life? And I was like, I just want her to see that her mom does what makes her mom happy. Because I think if you're a happy parent, you can be a much better parent. If you're a fulfilled parent, but if you're just grinding away at something you don't enjoy, you're not going to have that energy to be happy at home.
Yeah.
So that's why I chose that. It was kind of difficult. It took me a long time. I probably spent about 8 years just making things and then trying to sell on Etsy and doing little shows here and there. And luckily my family's really supportive of what I do. So they were always willing to babysit and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. You need that support system is so important for an entrepreneur, whether you live in poverty below the Ellis threshold or are well off, you still need a support system around you. And I think we're going to get into that a little bit in the show. You tell us, let's promote your shop a little bit. Tell us where it is and what you do and when you're open. And
well, my shop is called Monkey Stuff. It's in the Reotown Marketplace. If you're not familiar, it's right across the street from St. Vincent's. You've probably seen the big record lounge signs out front. So it's right in that same door. And about half of my shop is things that I make myself. So jewelry, epoxy, knit and crochet, tie-dye. And the other half is things that I do purchase wholesale. But I'm a really strong believer in like supporting other small businesses. So everything that I purchase wholesale is made in the US, by really small companies, typically women owned, but most of these companies I buy from have like less than 30,000 Instagram followers. Like they're small, and
Okay.
that's important to me.
How do you find those companies?
I actually, I don't know if you're familiar, but there's like a site called Fair. It's to connect shop owners with small brands.
Okay.
And so it's a really great, it's pretty new. It's a really great resource because then I don't have to go to trade shows and all that.
Which is it? Fair, FAIR
E.
or FA?
FAIRE.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, FAIRE.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And is that like fair.com? Or we'll find it and we'll post
Yeah,
that
that's
out there.
exactly what it is. So that's where I find the people that I purchase from, and every account on there will show you like their values. Like, are they women owned? Are they small? Are they not on Amazon? So that you as a buyer can like make those type of decisions for your store.
How do you feel about Amazon?
I do buy things from Amazon because it's easy as far as like bags and tissue paper, because you can get it for very cheap. And so I wish I didn't have to, but to buy from like these bulk order wholesale companies, I got to buy like 1,000 bags minimum. And it's like, I have $20 spent on bags. So Amazon will give me, bags for $20. And like, if you purchase through like Uline or whatever, those minimums are much higher. So it's a push and pull. Like, I wish I didn't have to use it, but it's also, I can purchase in one transaction bags and resin molds and tissue paper, like all of that in one transaction. So
I dislike Amazon more than most, and I still have to use it for
I don't have
reasons.
Prime.
No Prime?
No Prime. I like I said, for a long time I really avoided ordering on there. But once I had the store and I had to like have certain things, I was like, let's buy it all at once.
I feel dirty just publishing my podcast on Amazon Music. So what about local to Lansing? Do you buy anything from local?
I want to. The issue with that is that we do have a lot of like small handmade shops in Lansing.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of artists, their stuff is already in this shop or that shop. And I don't want to step on anyone's toes and be like, well, you carry this person's stuff, but I'm going to do it too.
Okay.
So there's kind of that. I do have some candles from a friend of mine that I sell, and I'm definitely open to it. I think a lot of artists get nervous to ask.
Would you be looking, like, let's say I wanted to start an artist business today, and I didn't have the money for the rent, because you've got to pay rent and all of that in your shop. Would you be looking to collaborate with an artist like that who is just getting started and looking for somebody to help them distribute? I
could definitely do that. And I'm okay with either purchasing your items wholesale, and so I pay you up front for them, and you don't have to wait for me to give you a monthly commission. Or if commission works better for you, I can do that as well.
So is that consignment? Is
that sorry. Yeah, that's the same thing.
So that kind of leads into the bigger thing that you wanted to talk about. How do you view Lansing and the small businesses that are?
I love Lansing, first of all, and I think we have a lot of really wonderful small businesses. I think it's really polarized. I think you have like the old town businesses and the downtown businesses, the east side, Rio Town, south side. Nobody really messes with the south side. It's like as soon as you get south of Holmes, people are like afraid of that area, unfortunately. But I think if we could all get together and there wasn't like the little like pettiness or the competition, we could be a really like powerful business force in this area of the state. We're far enough from Detroit and Grand Rapids, and we have a lot of really amazing shops here that people just don't know about. People either they know about Old Town, or they know about Rio Town, or they only like the east side, or people have their opinions. And there's really fabulous shops all over the place, but since we don't work together, we don't create that buzz that some of the bigger cities do for their small businesses.
Yeah. So how do you see that? Like, what's that look like if you could push a magic button right now and everyone started collaborating and
Yeah.
uniting?
I would love to see festivals that are not centralized to one spot, like how they do, like in Old Town, they have an event called the Shop Hop. What if that was a Lansing-wide event? You know, Lansing's not that big area-wise. It's like 8 miles long or something like that. So it's not that big. So we could definitely do something like that, or like events that require you to go from spot to spot. Unfortunately, Old Town has most of those, so that's what's coming to mind, like the Chocolate Walk and Arts Night Out. What if Arts Night Out was citywide?
Yeah.
And then people who want to go to Arts Night Out, they can, drive to this area, then drive to this area. I do think the parking situation in Lansing would have to improve a little bit for that.
Like the number of spaces, or like charging for parking, or both?
Both. Like in a lot of these areas, parking can be pretty limited if you get enough people down there.
Yeah.
And then now that they have their new parking system, they've just been like, well, let's charge for parking everywhere because it's so easy to pop in these little digital kiosks.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like it's the right thing to be getting revenue from our community that is struggling with poverty, is struggling with Alice thresholds and all of that.
I'm happy that they made it so you could pay with a card, but that's where my pleasure with that new system ends. Like,
well, even paying with a card means you have to be bankable.
Yeah.
Which, if you can't get a bank account, you can't get a card.
And they charge a convenience fee on that.
Yeah.
Of 30 cents per transaction.
Oh, they do?
Yeah. So if the parking, because Lansing's parking is pretty cheap. So if the parking is 30 cents, now you're paying double just to pay with a card.
Mm.
And that big lot in Old Town that used to be free, you now pay. And it's cheap, but it used to be free. And that was great for those businesses. So.
If you went to Otto, did you grow up on the north side, or?
I kind of, at that time, I was living on the north side. First, we lived with just my mom by MLK and Jolly.
Okay.
So that's where I first lived. My mom worked in that L&L that used to be there for a long time.
Yeah.
And then she met my stepdad, and we moved way up over by State Road.
Okay.
And that's why I went to Otto.
Okay.
And then, we stayed over there until after I was done in high school. Now they live close to downtown, but yeah.
We haven't said the west side.
Yeah.
How come?
I guess it just didn't pop in my mind. The west side, I know that there's some great businesses over there, but I feel like a lot of that area is very like commercial. Mm-hmm. It's got the mall, and it's got the Target and the Myers, and it's got like all the restaurants and whatever. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I know when I drive through there and I'm looking around, I don't see there's a few like small restaurants, but I don't really see like small shops. So if they are over there, I would like to know.
Well, I think they're trying to improve that Saginaw corridor, kind of by, I'm going to get the streets wrong, but like Pine and Saginaw and Oakland.
Oh, yeah. I used to live on Princeton Avenue, right along there where Parks Furniture and stuff was.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think they'd like to revitalize that a little bit into,
that would be nice.
I don't know what I think they have a name for it, or they're starting to. But yeah, yesterday my guest reminded me I wrote a poem a long time ago about how the city seemed to have turned its back on the west side, and the 496 corridor that went, that opened in 1970, wiped out that whole Olds Avenue neighborhood and
that's
all
where
that.
My mom lives, actually, on Olds Avenue.
Right now?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
That's where she moved back in like 2014 or something. When we moved from like the State Road area, that's where she bought a house at because it was very cheap because nobody likes that area.
I've my whole life, I've not been in Lansing my whole life. I've been in Ann Arbor and Grand Rapids too. But for the most part, I've been in this area. My family has, and I've lived on every side of town.
Yeah.
So I'm actually super passionate about what you're talking about and this unity. What you have some ideas, I think, right? Like, what are you doing? Right.
Well, as far as like me personally, it's it's hard for me to do like a lot, 'cause most days I'm, working on my stuff from 9 in the morning till 9 at night and just trying to get by. I am like doing like kids classes, and I try to keep those well priced because my hope is that if it's accessible for kids and they can learn like a craft that is like valuable, beyond just like the fine art scope, but to create something, maybe that'll give them the confidence to want to start their own business.
Yeah. Do you, so you do art and jewelry and crafts and things like that. How has the learning the business side of it? Because a lot of times people do this, they start as a hobby and then they want to make it a business, but then that's kind of a reach for them. How's it been for you?
It's been easy and difficult. The thing is, like, not to talk too much about government and politics and all that, but they make it very easy to create a business. They make it very difficult to pay taxes. That's the part that's scary. Is it's free to get on the IRS website and create a business with you probably know that.
With the EIN.
Yep. It takes 2 seconds. You get the paperwork in the mail. You're officially a business. But now, and if you want to go through the state of Michigan, you get a sales tax license. If you want to be an LLC, you got to go through Lara, all of that. And that stuff gets really muddy and really watered down because there's not good resources to help people kind of wade through all of that and figure out what actual paperwork they need. Mm-hmm. And then when it comes to paying taxes, I mean, like, God forbid you mess up. And there's not good resources to help you with that. And a tax professional is crazy expensive. Yeah. So you kind of get stuck in this area. I did make an appointment when I first started with the SBDC. Uh-huh. So anyone who's thinking of starting a business, it's free to make an appointment with them. And you can ask them any question about business, any question at all. It's a 1-hour appointment, and you can make multiple appointments as many times as you want. And they're professionals, in the field. I don't know if you're familiar with their work or.
Yeah, you don't know much about the Fletch, I don't think.
Yeah, I haven't been here, so.
The Small Business Development Center, it's on LCC's campus, and they have tons of free resources. You go to their website, you sign up, you sign a consent form that, you can talk. They can talk to their consultants, and they'll help you form an LLC, a DBA. They'll
all of that.
Help you get a business loan if that's the proper thing to do. And then there's also, the Fledge will walk you through the paperwork. It's a $50 filing fee in Lara if you're creating an LLC. Yeah. And then we're also free. And SBDC will also make you pay that filing fee.
Yeah, that's the fee that the state charges.
But the other thing that's great about the SBDC is they've got all these videos online. And you can just watch the videos. So if you're worried about taxes or marketing or how to hire an employee.
But sometimes it is nice to talk to somebody and be like, this is my situation. And so it's lovely that is free. So anyone who wants to start a business and has questions should just make an appointment there.
And then I think LEAP is introducing a program this year called Level Up. I'm not 100% sure yet, but it's to help people that are, running their business out of their house and they want to get a little more legal and a little more, get in a position where you can get a grant. Because if you show people your personal checking account and, that's how you're running a business, it's harder to get that funding.
Yeah.
So, you said something I think that was very profound before before we started here, and it was about if it wasn't for COVID, you want to keep going?
Yeah. The sad thing is, and I hate to say this, but I think a lot of people, especially small business owners, feel the same way. COVID, if you didn't lose somebody to it, kind of turned out to be, I hate to say a blessing, but the funding that became available for small businesses really helped myself and a lot of people get off the ground. And it's really sad that we need like the abject horror and crisis of a pandemic to convince the government that poor people can be trusted with money. But yeah, it's before COVID, I could have never gotten grants, loans. It was the SBA grants, it was the stimulus, the unemployment money that allowed me to go from my bedroom to a store. Without that, I couldn't have done it, because pre-COVID, you couldn't get those things if you didn't have X amount of years in business, if you didn't have this credit score, if you weren't making this type of money. And it's like, the push and pull is that you need those things to get to that place. It's kind of like that issue when people are like, you have to have job experience to get a job, but you can't get job experience without getting a job.
Yeah.
It's like it's like a lose-lose.
Yeah.
And so when COVID,
the bank will only give you a loan if you don't need it.
Right. Like you have to prove that you've been like this much profitable and all of that. And so I think that can keep a lot of people from not wanting to start a business, because if you're poor and your family is poor and you don't have those type of resources, the government's not going to help you.
Yeah.
You
have to figure it out yourself, and bootstrap and do side hustles.
Yeah, and I hate the bootstraps, because I feel like we were just pulling on our bootstraps and there was nothing in there, we were just ripping those bootstraps. But unfortunately, there's no money in the bootstraps.
Well, so what? There's a bunch of, in 2020, it was the year that more small businesses were started in the U.S. than any time before in history.
Yeah.
And I think that correlates with the grants and the funding.
And people were at home and they could think about what do I want my life to be after this? Yeah. Whereas when you're in that shitty 9-to-5 job, you don't have the time. You come home, you cook dinner for your kids, you go to bed.
I think that there was a glass bubble of shininess and fakeness around tons of our systems, and COVID just picked it up and threw it on the ground and said, that's what things really look like.
Yeah.
And it also proved to us, I think, that poverty and support of the poor has always been a policy decision, right? They decided not to do it until they had to do it.
Right.
And tell us about what that did for you, because you said you were in your bedroom. I'm quoting you. And so you're working out of there, and then you start to get to you get this funding, you get into a shop, you can increase your inventory.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, it was really kind of like surreal for a minute, because it was kind of like when that funding started coming in, you don't know how long that's going to last. And, like I said, I think there's always this mistrust of poor people that if you give us money, we'll waste it. We won't spend it responsibly. I think that's been proven wrong many times. You give poor people money, they invest it well.
Yeah. Better than most.
Better than most. They don't throw it in trust and bonds. They, pay off their loans and they start their businesses. And so, it was, I was given the opportunity to open my first little shop in the basement of Thriftwitch, when she was over next to Cravings.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar with that building, there's a bunch of little rooms in that basement. So she kind of gave me that. I was really nervous, but I was like, well, I have this money. What am I going to do with it to, change my situation? But had I not had that money, I wouldn't have taken that opportunity, because I would have been like, no, I got to pay this rent and I got to fill this space.
And she is Tisha King.
That's Tisha.
And then she moved. She's still doing that though, right?
Yep.
She's got a different spot.
Yeah, due to crappy real estate politics.
Hey, don't steal her show. She's still got to come down, and we're gonna.
She had to move. I'll just leave it at that. Due to crappy real estate politics in Old Town, she had to switch buildings. At that time, in the basement of her old building, I had taken over 2 rooms because I kept getting this funding. So that's when I first started to get into wholesale. So the funding gave me the ability to purchase product wholesale. And so then I just really ballooned from there, because I was able to offer other products besides just what I make.
Yeah.
And so, I had taken over 2 rooms. When she moved, I was like, I think it might be time for me to kind of just fly on my own, I
Mhm.
guess. And so then that's when I got the space at the marketplace, where I have like more room. And because had I stayed with her, I may have taken up more space
Yeah.
than, and then like the other small shops with her may have lost out on
Well, I
room
think
that,
that's kind of her objective. Even Rio Town
Mhm.
Marketplace
Yeah.
objective is to get you guys growing.
Mm-hmm.
So you take a whole storefront. Maybe
Yeah.
you'll have a whole factory
I would
someday.
love
Who
to
knows?
have my own building one day.
Yeah.
But
So you're aspiring to that.
yes.
So how'd you do this? Well, how are you doing like financially with the business? Is revenue going up?
Yes. If you have a shop, you know January and February are the worst months for small businesses, especially ones that rely on foot traffic. But even though it's been difficult the past 2 months, I've made double what I made last January and February. So that makes me really happy. First I was like, oh, why it's so slow? But then I actually looked at the numbers. I was like, I've made double what I made last year. So yeah, I think it's just trying to connect people with your product. As a shy person, I struggle with the social media and putting myself out there. I don't like to put my face on social media, which hurts my algorithms or whatever, but it is what it is.
By shy, do you mean like you're an introvert?
Yes, extremely. And I just have like a hard time talking. Like I have like my business face. Like when I'm at the store, I'm like one person.
Mhm.
Which is like a face that I learned from like working in retail and all that. You have to talk to people.
That forced extrovert.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
which is
that's-
exhausting.
yeah, and it's not me. And so that's why I don't put my face on social media. I'm super private, and I see how people can get torn down so easily on social media because something about I'm like deathly afraid of that. Like I'll look the wrong way or I'll say the wrong thing. So I don't talk. I don't put my face.
I post and walk away. Whatever they want to say, let them say it.
I need to get to that point.
Just along the collaboration lines,
Mhm.
Miss Deirdre is saying I need to be introduced to Miss Katie, so I will make that happen. Okay.
Yeah, you're welcome to stop into my shop anytime and talk to me. The weekdays are super slow, Tuesday through Thursday, 11 to about 3:30. I leave a little bit early to pick up my daughter from school, but feel free to stop in. And then I'm there Friday and Saturday too. The foot traffic's usually a little bit heavier, so sometimes I get a little busy. But
Okay. I'd
yeah.
love to see you two talking because Deirdre went through the One and All program.
Oh, okay.
And that's something that you might want to think about applying for too, a little funding and help from the SBDC. The Fledge is a program partner with the Refugee Development Center.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that.
So, but I'll make sure that you two, I'll send you both an email later. What, as we kind of wrap up here, and people are listening or going to listen to the show, what advice could you give them? Whether, and maybe there's two pieces of advice. Me as a consumer, you know, I don't have a shop. Well, I actually do, but or somebody who does have a shop, a small business.
Yeah.
Give them each a small thing they could do today that would help.
I think if you're a consumer, and I know this gets, pounded into your head a million times, but do try to shop small. A lot of times you can find cheaper alternatives than what you're going to get, and higher quality alternatives because you're basically buying direct from the producer.
Right.
So I would say that it really, my sales in my store for the day, determine the groceries that I buy. So it's very personal. So yeah, shop small for those reasons. And if you have a business or you want to start a business, don't be afraid to reach out to people. Some people don't want to help, but a lot of people are willing to help, or can lead you in the right direction. So don't be afraid to introduce yourself to somebody. Don't be afraid to follow business groups on Facebook and comment and ask questions. Yeah, that's the best advice I can give. It's I didn't start making good sales until I just kind of forced myself to reach out a little bit. So,
And I love your advice and what you're saying here, because it takes these dollars that are hard to get in Lansing and it traps it in Lansing.
Yeah.
And that's really what we really need to do, is surround ourselves by people who have money,
yeah,
by people who, and I don't mean go find all the rich people and stay with them. What I mean is spend money with your neighbors so they have money, so they can spend it with you.
yeah,
And those dollars become $1, $2, $4, so on and so forth. So economically speaking, collaboration, spending with each other, spending local, traps that dollars and raises the probability for all of us.
Yeah.
So it's more than just the we do the Love Lansing hashtag all the time and all of that, and all that's great, but at the end of the day, it's math. And what you're saying is exactly right and exactly what we need to do.
Yeah, like I said, you can even find at the marketplace, there's a farmer's market, there's a soap shop, and Chuck's, I don't know if you're familiar with Chuck, who owns Sapo de Solis.
Yes.
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff he makes, it's amazing, and it's cheaper than what you're going to get at Ulta. So yeah, like that's what I would say, is there's something for everybody, and you can get what you need for cheaper.
All right. So now that would be the typical show, but you brought back something from last year, and we're going to spend a little time on this, because on the website I still have last year's run of show.
Yeah.
And if y'all remember from season 1, I asked a question, and the question was happiness, sadness, joy, hope, and love. Which one would you like to talk about?
I chose sadness, and the reason for that is because some things that do make me sad, as I said earlier, is all of the like business polarization in Lansing, how each side of the town kind of supports like their businesses and they don't really connect with everyone else. And the lack of financial resources, especially if you're poor, and a lot of times when you're poor, you don't know where to find those resources if they do exist.
Right. Or you don't even have time to look because you're worried about food and housing. And
like if those things were, if there was like a place we could go that's like business resources for lowincomepeople.com, like something like that was just really straightforward and was like very simple. It was like, click on this button and apply for a grant, instead of this waiting through government websites and finding out you don't qualify or this or that. So I think if we had more of those available, more people would start a business. All
right. There we go. Thank you so very much for being on the show.
Thank
you. It's, you got any pop-ups or not pop-ups, but any events coming up in the marketplace?
There's actually a like women's themed art show coming up. I don't remember the exact dates. I think it's late March. So if anyone's interested, go to the Reotown Marketplace page. And also I am hosting a kids class. It's like an introduction to crafting for ages 5 to 10. So you can find that event on my business Facebook page.
Which is?
It's Monkey Stuff Jewelry. That's my business page, so you can find me there. And yeah, the event is on there. It goes through a whole description of what it is. It's just introducing kids to a different craft night, or a different craft each night. It's a 4-week-long class. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so very much, and thanks for trying to help build up Lansing and the unity and the collaboration. And go out and love on somebody today, and do that by helping them with their business.
Yeah.
And, buying local and trapping these dollars in our community. That's a wrap for Every Damn Day today. Love y'all, and we will see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Thank you, Katie.
Thanks.
Oops. Wrong.